Solstice is back in D2, and that means the return of Solstice armor, aka getting easy triple 100s in your armor builds very, very simply and easily. How does this work? Now, before we get into the armor itself, I want to explain the event so people know how to get to the armor. The way this works is you'll be doing event challenges for Solstice just like last year, and then you will be acquiring event tickets or kindled tickets, whatever you want to call them. The objectives are very easy. I'm going to have a full guide on completing all these challenges all in one day, very quickly and fast, to get all your tickets to get to the armor. That'll be a separate video, though, because this video will be talking specifically about the armor and how stats work in armor in the game. So, once you've acquired all of these tickets, you'll be doing your armor pieces in-game to level them up, glow them up, and get higher statistics in your armor. So, base armor, you're going to start out in the event in Bonfire. You're going to get things like 56 rolls, 54, etc. And then later on, you can get things like this. Now, I'm going to show the entire process for you guys right out the gate so you know what I'm talking about. Go into Bonfire, you acquire any armor piece, and then you can put it on, and then get Silver Ash and Leaves. Once you do, you'll have these 2 extra slots right here, Kindling and Ember. And these processes are how you're going to acquire your high stat armor once you've done the event challenges. So what the game wants you to do is you get your kindling up, and then you use the ticket to get small kindling, then large kindling, and then fully rekindled. And once this is complete, you can start rolling your armor into how you want. So I'm just going to do the process for you guys. Moving along, once you complete the kindling process, that slot will disappear, and then you'll be completing the Embers process. Once you get to the final step of the Embers process, it's going to ask you for a spark and then a stat to choose with the spark. Now, before we do that, I need to explain how armor stats work in the game for any armor piece in general. This will also apply to using your ghost, by the way, for a stat that, again, I'll show you an example of in a second. So the way stats work in D2, and let me take off that armor for a second here. So the way stat distribution works in Destiny 2 is the following. The game takes these 6 stats and it calculates them in 2 separate trees of stats. What I mean by this is that the game takes mobility, resilience, and recovery and makes that one tree, and then it takes discipline, intellect, and strength and makes it a second tree, so they're technically separated. Now, this applies to normal legendary armor, and also most of the time to exotics. However, exotics have one small difference in that some exotics have an intrinsic stat built into it, which might screw you over when trying to calculate all of this using a ghost mod. I'll get to that in a second, though. First, I want to talk about legendary armor as this applies to the Solstice armor. So we're going to take a random, completely new piece out of the aquarium here from the machine through an engram, and I'm going to show you guys how this works. So, we're going to go to a random armor piece, doesn't matter which one. I have a ghost mod on for discipline, I believe. Let's double check. Yes. So, we're going to pick a random one, just not class item, because that has, like, no stats. So, let's pick boots. Let's go with boots. And we're going to go here, and as you can see, bam, I have 28 discipline. My ghost did the job perfectly, how I wanted it to do. Because the stat distribution is 65 total, and the game saw that I wanted discipline. So it took discipline, calculated a number for discipline, and then put in 28. Then, the remaining stats went to 2 intellect and 2 strength for a grand total of 32. Which means that's half, obviously, because you can't divide, 32 and a half into 2 separate categories. Then it took 33 points of the other half and put it into Recov, Resilience, and Mobility, which is 8 plus 23, 31, and then 2 Recov, 33. So it divided the 65 evenly, but still kept my Ghost mod intact to give me the maximized amount for Discipline. Cheeky edit from Sneak from the Future here. There's one more thing I need to mention about armor stats for Legendary and Exotic armor while I'm discussing distributions here. 4 armor drops in the game. When you get a legendary armor piece, the absolute max total a total armor piece can drop is 68. And for exotics, it's normally 70, with the exception of pre-Forsaken exotics being able to drop at 71 base total. The reason why this is important is when the game is distributing these trees between mobility, recovery, and discipline, strength, and intellect, it cannot go past 34 for either of the particular trees. So, for example, my chest piece that you're going to see on screen here, you can see that I have 2 mobility, 20 resil, and 12 recov for a grand total of 34. It's not going to go past 34 no matter what the grand total at the bottom here is. If I got a 66 total instead of a 64, it still wouldn't go higher than 34 in the top tree, and whatever was left over after that 34 would go into the bottom tree. So if this was a 62 instead, and I still got 2, 20, and 12 on the top tree. Instead of having 9, 10, and 11 on the bottom, I would get 2 less stat points on the bottom instead. Just thought I'd mention that in case people were wondering, well, why is it distributing like 34 on top and 30 on the bottom? That's why. Okay, back to rambling about stats. Now, for the exotic portion, what I meant by that earlier is, for example, let's take a Controverse Hold glove exotic for Warlocks. This glove, let me find it before I talk out of my butt. This glove has built-in intrinsic discipline built into it, which means when you get it to drop, it'll have high to medium discipline automatically on it because that's its intrinsic stat. What this means is when you're using your Ghost mod, and let's say you want to farm Controverse Hold, you don't want to have discipline on it because those two will clash and it will actually screw over your drop. What you instead want to do is target the other stat family tree and have that distribution go that way. So what that would do is, let's say you target resilience in your Ghost, so you'll get medium to high resilience, and then the intrinsic stat of Controverse itself will kick in and give you medium to high discipline. So if you wanted, let's say, discipline, resilience, and recov, that's the best way to go about it, instead of rather going discipline on the Ghost and then having the intrinsic discipline work, and then your armor drop becomes like 3 discipline instead of, 20. And just to give you guys another random example, let's just switch up this thing to something else, shall we? Resilience, right? Because that's like the best stat in the game, literally. And we're going to go buy another engram. So what this should do is give me medium to high resilience, and then divide the total between those two categories once again. Let's go with the chess piece. So we got 26 resilience, so we built on the high end. Now, you see how it went to 26 resilience, and then because it went high resil, the mobility and the recov that's also in its tree ended up low. So 26 plus 2 plus 2 is 30 out of the 62 total, which means the rest went into the bottom tree of 16, 14, which is 30, and then strength for 2. So now you're thinking, what the hell does this have to do with the Solstice armor? So, what I mentioned with Shining Embers earlier here, you can combine your Ghost mod plus this Spark to target 2 stats in your armor pieces instead of the usual 1, and give 2 stats the big boost or medium boost into whatever you want. So if you're trying to get a specific build of, let's say, Resil plus Discipline, Resil plus Recov, Resil plus Strength, whatever you want. Probably Resil plus something, because Resil is stupid. You can use this to target those 2 stats specifically, and just have the game distribute the rest of the stats evenly, and not worry about those, and be able to target those 2 stats to get an easy 100. So, again, Resil is king, right? And we want resilience on our armor piece. I'm going to go and target Resil in the Spark, and then I'll change this to Discipline. So we should get a spike of medium to high discipline and resilience, and then have whatever the points are in total distributed evenly. Pick Resil. Eat my embers. Now I do want to put a disclaimer here and show it on screen. Imbuing armor with embers increases its stats most of the time, but there's a small chance that its stat total will decrease. I don't know if this is like an intentional thing to kind of give you, I don't know, RNG slot machine vibes. And then our grand total now is 58 total. Yeah, that part about you might get a downgrade on your armor stats. Yeah. Why does that exist? I don't know, but it is what it is. Anyway, ignoring the terrible stat distribution there, we have 7, 21, and 2 for a grand total of 30. And then on the bottom tree, we have 16 plus 6, which is 22, plus 6, which is 28. So 30 plus 28 is 58. Now, the game saw that I wanted Discipline on my Ghost and Resil on my Spark, so it gave me a medium to high boost of Discipline and Resil. And other than getting shafted on your RNG and getting negative stats back on when you insert your Shining Embers, this is how you use the system to get your triple 100s. So for this armor piece, I wanted Resil and Discipline, right? And eventually you're going to hit a ceiling of where you're close to 100 on both of those. So instead, on, let's say, your helmet, you're going to go, okay, well, I'm high in those 2, so this time around, I'm going to put my kindlings in, and then for Shining Embers, I'm going to go ahead and slot in Resil again, but this time, I'm going to slot in Recovery in my Ghost. That way, I get Resil Recovery and still get the best stat in the game, plus I'm getting recovery instead of my already high discipline. So let's get to the Shining Embers part right here real quick. Alright, so we're going to pick Resilience there, but then in my Ghost, I'm going to go in and put in wherever Recov is. Okay, Recov is 4. Math is hard. Excuse me. Recov is 4. So, there we go. We have Recov, we have Resilience, so we should have a medium to high spike in both of those stats on my helmet right here. Hopefully it doesn't roll to a 58 like the other piece did. Here we go. Alright, we had 64. Pretty good, pretty good. So we have 2 mobility, 20 resil, 12 recov, for a grand total of 34. Then, we go on the bottom, we have 14 and 10, 24, plus 6, 30. So a grand total of 64, 34 plus 30. Bam. Good. So we have 20 resilience. Good. We have 12 recov. We got a medium boost there instead of a high boost. But it's fine. It is what it is. You actually want some evenly distributed armor pieces, because not everything's going to work out in your favor just dipping into 2 stats only. So a nice even flow of 20, 12, and 14 will help me get my triple hundreds in the resil, recov, and discipline category. The main point to take out of this is that Solstice allows you to target 2 stats in the same family tree and get at least a decent medium to high boost in both of those stats in the same tree, whereas opposed to something like Artifice farming only allows you to use your Ghost to get a huge spike in that one particular stat, and then you're at the mercy of RNG for all the other points distributing. So if I was farming Artifice and I had recovery on, let's say I got 28 recovery on my chest piece, then the rest would probably be like 2 resil and 2 mobility, and then the rest would flow into the bottom tree, and I would be done there. But here, I can at least target 2 things in the same realm or tree. So I'm gonna, again, just for the sake of the video, I'm gonna target Resilience and Recov, still both in the top tree, and still get, hopefully, a decent distribution without getting effed by RNG. So there you go again. So I have 12 and 20 in the 2 stats that I wanted. They're in the same tree, but we still got good stats, and it was guaranteed, essentially. And it got an even distribution. That could help you even out your triple hundreds instead of just worrying about spiking into one particular stat. Also, for those wondering, if you're new to Solstice and you just started playing this here, this does not take away your mod slot for improving a stat in the first slot. So if you wanted to, let's take my helmet for example. I have high resil already. I have 12 recov and 14 discipline. Let's say my build wants to be high in resil and discipline. I'll just go over here and put in this discipline mod here. So now I'm at 74 base. I have 20, 12, and 24. Very good even distribution. Those are 2 stats that matter to me, so I got what I wanted. Then you can also masterwork it and go even further, and you get an additional 12 stats distributed to your arm piece as well. In this case, it would be 2 points to each stat out of the 6. Let me just waste a Ascendant Shard on a terrible piece here. Not terrible, but average. So there you go. I went from 74 to 86 total, so now we're looking at 4, 22, 14, 26, 12, and 8. And that is it. Hopefully my rambling has made some sort of sense, and hopefully I didn't misspeak on anything. If I did, or maybe something sounded confusing, feel free to ask in the comments below for clarification. Sorry I didn't have much gameplay in the background for this video, but I felt like actually visually showing how the stats worked and what went on in the process is more important than just showing random bonfire and gameplay that you're just going to experience yourself anyway. And hopefully that helps you farm out your Solstice armor and get your god rolls for your triple 100 builds for whatever you want to do on your character. And yeah, that's it. Have fun farming your Warlock Titan and your Hunter for whatever you want. Like, share, subscribe. Does help the channel. Much appreciated. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.